I'm here with the stair balustrade course PowerPoint presentation, and I just wanted to go over Section 5, Newel placement, so we understand the concept here. So it starts here on this slide. We threw in a couple definitions, balustrade and Newel, just to have the students read those and try and ingrain that in their heads, what those terms mean. And we start with this one, Newel placement. Now there's multiple slides of the same type of thing in the same 4 questions. The thought behind this is we're trying to get these stair installers to understand when they walk into a house, there's certain things they're going to need to pay attention to when they're installing a balustrade. And there's a few other probably that aren't listed in here, but to keep it simple, we've got 4 questions. Where does the rail hit the wall? This is relevant because in some instances you're going to have a wall much like this one. So this wall it may be 6 inches wide. On this side, it doesn't have a fixed wall. This is an open-sided wall here. So if this handrail were to move left to right a little bit, it wouldn't really matter aesthetically how that happens. But if this rail moves right to left, it's going to be off center in this wall. So visually that's going to be not good. You don't want to do that. So the first thing, number 1 on the list here that we're looking at, is where does it hit the wall, because we want to pay attention to stuff like that. You've got the same situation here where you've got this long flat wall on this side, but this wall is a fixed dimension. So each one of these pictures has a little bit different of a scenario there. You can see this one hits the wall on this column. What might some others be? This one hits in a flat surface. Again, this one's kind of a flat surface. So you're looking for something that may dictate where you need to mount your handrail, and you need to pay attention to that. Okay, so that's question number 1. We'll run back up to the first slide here. Question number 2, where does the baluster, or where do the balusters hit the floor? The reason we're asking that question is because the floor can also dictate where to mount your balustrade. So once you've got this figured out, and now you're looking at the floor, in these situations we can only see the stair, so there's really nothing impeding or dictating where we mount our balustrade system in these pictures. But when we get further down here, yes, this could sit anywhere as well, but the center post is going to dictate a little bit of where that sits. Also, this right here, you've got balustrade sitting on top of hardwood floors, so you need to know where you want to set that. Do you want to set it far enough to the edge that it's in the nosing piece? So you've got maybe a 3-inch nosing. Do you want those balustrades to sit on that nosing? Do you want it to sit on the seam of the nosing? Do you want it to sit off the nosing? These are all questions you need to ask yourself when you're looking at your install before you start drilling holes in anything. Here's another one. Where do they hit the floor? Well, in this scenario, they're hitting on a curb wall. So that curb wall really is going to dictate that handrail in addition to this column, but typically you would want these balusters to sit in the center of that curb wall. So you have to pay attention to that. There's multiple other pictures here, same scenario. You have curb walls, but you have a curb wall here, but you don't have a curb wall here. This is set on the floor. So as you look at the grand scheme of things, you don't want to look at the base of the stair or the top of the stair or the middle of the stair or balconies. You want to look at all of it. And once you've taken all of that in, you want to decide where is the best place to set your balustrade. Okay. Again, this is on top of tread and riser. There's really nothing dictating there, but upstairs might have a curb wall, and so you got to look at all of those options. Okay. So that's what question number 2 is about. Question number 3, are there any handrail transitions? This is a good one to start on that. Yeah, we've got a transition here. Okay, in this particular scenario, we have a corner post here on a landing, and you have this rake that's coming up into this post and this rake that's going to hit this post. Now this is kind of an odd shaped or an extra large box newel, but if they don't do this gooseneck here, this handrail is going to hit right on this molding, so that's not going to work. So before you start mounting posts and figuring out handrail heights, you want to know, are there some of these transitions that you're going to need to deal with. There's a few others here maybe we can look at. There's another box newel. So you have to pay attention to this transition. This box newel is mounting in front of this top riser. So this handrail is coming up and it hits this newel. And then this handrail also hits in this same area. So in this scenario, they were able to get the handrail to mount in the same area of the box newel. They were not able to do that in this scenario. They had to do an up-easing and miter this over and across. So you need to pay attention to those transitions. Here you have have a scenario where they have a landing newel post that has an extra long block on it to allow this handrail upstairs to mount, as well as the handrail downstairs on this rake. So if you don't have a newel post that has a long block on it for a transition, then you're going to have an issue with that install. So that's number 3. Number 4, where will the post be the strongest, or where are you mounting your post? This is important because the newel posts are the strength of your handrail system. So a notched newel post at the base of the stair is a very strong attachment. Anytime you can notch a post, it adds strength to a post. Here's a good contrast to that. This newel post that mounts on top of that tread will not be near as strong as this newel post that is notching down into the floor. In addition to the strength, you need to know from this newel post to the wall over here, let's say, you need to have a walkway of 36 inches. So you can't impede that walkway. So if we were looking at I don't know if there's any other good representations of that. Let me scroll through it. We'll use this one as an example. You can see right here there's a doorway and there's a walkway, a space right here. Okay, so these newel posts are mounted on top of this first tread. Now, that's not as strong as mounting a notch newel post down on the front of this riser, but they might not have 36 inches of walkway right there. So you got to take that into account. So asking yourself these 4 questions are going to help with the install. They're going to make sure before you start drilling holes and screwing and cutting rails that you've thought through this process. And so these slides, the purpose of this is to start with slide 1 and to go around the room and ask one of the students to say, okay, answer these 4 questions and talk to us about what you see. It's also a great conversation for, you can see there's some code issues. These are not SMA pictures. These were pulled off of the World Wide Web. And you can see this handrail stops here and then picks up over here. Well, that's a continuity problem. And hopefully after you've gone through a few of those code things with the students, they'll be able to look at this and say, hey, there's a problem there. So as you scroll through these, each student will answer these questions, and then you'll go to the next slide. You'll ask a different student to go through these questions. And hopefully as you run through these, you get that same problem here where this handrail stops and this handrail stops. And in this picture, we can't see any wall-mounted rail continuing up the stairs. So great time to have those conversations and to drive into their heads. They have to pay attention to these things before they start cutting and drilling. Okay? Thanks.